All right, everyone, welcome to this new moon sidereal astrology forecast. This is for the new moon on the 9th of September 2018, but also covering the weekend of the 7th through the 9th, Friday through Sunday. All right, so a new moon in Leo. If you were just now expecting me to say Virgo, be sure to check out that link down below. We are using the actual size of the constellations, which does change the signs from mainstream astrology. All right, so new moon in Leo, another one. This is the second one we've had this year. Last month we had this as well. So now further development of these qualities of Leo. So Leo the Lion is about developing essentially the things that give us energy, right? What gives us energy, passion, life force, right? And expressing this and creating. So getting into that self-expression, expressing ourselves, getting into our creative side, right? All of this type of energy, really good to cultivate during this now new lunar cycle. So with this new moon, we do have some aspects. There is going to be an opposition up to Neptune, which is quite an interesting energy with this because typically Neptune tends to cool off energy like the sun or Leo. So there could be a bit of a lower life force, maybe feeling a bit weaker in that sense, the life force. Maybe wanting to escape or go to some extremes with that Neptune. So we'll talk about balancing that. But there's also this trine up to Pluto. So very good for empowering ourselves through change and maybe doing things that we'd otherwise maybe not have the courage to do. So really good empowerment there. And a slight sextile up to Jupiter. So good for just seeing the opportunities that are there, having a bit of that open mind. So that's the new moon, which will be on Sunday, but also this weekend we do have Venus squaring up to Mars, so there could be a bit of this needing of integration with our interpersonal relationships. And also Friday, Mercury is going to be trining Saturn and Uranus. So actually coming into the weekend, there could be some maybe new ideas and maybe feeling a bit free, but also grounded at the same time. All right, so let's look at all of this here in more detail when we return. All right, so let's go ahead and start off this analysis by looking at the new moon. So again, the new moon will be on Sunday, the end of the weekend here, and it will be at 13:58 Eastern time. If you want to do the calculations for where that is in the world, it is 13:58 Eastern time of the Americas. All right, so another new moon in Leo, this time at the end of the constellation, so signaling further development with whatever we have likely already been cultivating this past month, involving, again, what gives us energy and life force. So this is usually a bit more on the developed side of it, the end of the constellation. So further development if it's about some things we've been doing the past month, but also could be new things, but perhaps in a way that's a bit more seasoned with the energy, a bit more expressive, a bit more able to work with the creative energies in this way that is true to our true self, right? And is a form of a self-expression. So really good to further this development. We will see what new does shape up. It will likely be new things generally. So it's good to be receptive to the energies, particularly this weekend, because as we approach Sunday, we are still going to be ending the previous cycle. So it is this closeout phase, and we do want to kind of do some clearing to make space for the new beginnings. But as we get into the early part of next week, likely noticing some new ideas, maybe quite literally some new things, and all in all, just a new perspective about what does give us that life force, what we do find passionate, and how we can invoke some more of this self-expression, whatever the medium might be. All right, so really good to cultivate this stuff with this cycle. Now, the new moon is going to be opposite Neptune. So this can be a bit of needing to find balance with Neptunian energy. Usually with oppositions, the natural tendency, and of course all of us are going to be working with this in different ways and feeling this in different ways, but the natural tendency of oppositions is to go towards the imbalance. So collectively, there might be a bit of an over or under emphasis of Neptune energy, which is essentially about receptivity. So it might be overly receptive, right? This could be involving relationships, for example, where we could be very selfless, right? So we want to make sure that we're setting boundaries, right? And being, in the present moment. And it could also maybe have to do with wanting to escape with other things, perhaps, if it's not relationships, because it's not necessarily the case. So, wanting to escape or hide away or indulge in fantasies and things like that, which is fine to allow the mind to wander and to get into maybe a bit of this creative energy that Neptune does provide, but staying, again, grounded in the present moment. And essentially what Neptune helps us do is surrender what's outside of our control, right? So to, again, live presently. So anything we can do that's constructive with this opposition to balance Neptune, which is always good for things like meditation, prayer, again, creative energy, if it's grounding it, and maybe some rest, relaxation, receptive time, and in those interpersonal relationships, being compassionate, understanding, receptive, right? Because we do have some relationship energy here this weekend. All right, so that is the opposition up to Neptune, probably the most important aspect with this new moon. But there is also a trine up to Pluto. So with Pluto's trine, this could actually be quite empowering. Pluto's supporting this, saying that this is actually a really good time for maybe doing things that we'd normally not do, because maybe we were afraid or we had some inhibitions about it, that now we have the support and willingness, right, to take those actions or to dive deep with things, and fundamentally just a willingness to see the truth or get to the truth, or with Leo, express that truth, right? So this is likely having to do with a bit of a shift of our perspective, which has to do with Pluto and Sagittarius, seeing things in a new light, in a new way, what's possible. And, both Sagittarius and Aquarius, which is where Neptune's transiting, has a lot to do with the future, right? So a lot of this could involve our future aspirations, our future ideals, right? And so sort of seeing those in a new way, but then also being receptive to them, right? Letting go of what's outside of our control, which is the future, right? Because it hasn't existed yet, and being present, and that can help balance that energy out, especially with Neptune, if we are feeling a bit of that disillusionment or escapism or lowered energy, life force energy, that once we connect to our soul in that present moment, we then find that real essential life force and energy, which is found there. All right, so those are the two most important things. There's also the sextile up to Jupiter. So on a minor note, there's just an opening here to see things in the broader perspective, just like that Sagittarius type of energy, right? So we might be able to see the big picture, all right? See the big picture and access a bit of this spirit for life that Jupiter gives us. It's just an opening for this minor aspect, but it is certainly available. Maybe a bit of adventurousness as well, which again supports any type of change or empowerment that Jupiter has been supporting Pluto with this year. All right, everyone, so that's the new moon in Leo, fundamentally about that self-expression, that creative life force now in further development and further development of that self-expression with these other sort of caveats and added sort of energies. So in terms of the weekend, because again, this will be at the end of the weekend, so let's go ahead and break this down day by day because there is quite a bit going on here astrologically. So Friday, coming into it, we do have a very nice trine between Mercury, Uranus, and Saturn. So a grand trine here. We may have been feeling this later part of Thursday. So Friday is actually a really good day. Again, while we're doing some clearing, because it is still the lowered energy of the lunar cycle, we do want to, kind of create space. But within that, likely maybe gaining some new insights, seeing things in a new way. Communication might be a bit, grounded, but at the same time quite freeing. So anything that involves our mind or communication can actually be quite supportive coming into Friday. Now, with that being said, the sun is going to be opposite Neptune into Friday. So again, that balance we're talking about with that receptive side, I think particularly important on Friday as we approach that new moon, right? So with this Friday, while we're seeing things in a new perspective, while we're perhaps quite grounded yet feeling quite free with what we're thinking about or communicating, there is also this importance of, right, getting in touch with, again, that present moment and surrendering what's outside of our control and balancing that Neptune energy through meditation, rest, things like this, creative energy to help ground that. And that can help us mediate any type of lowered energy feeling or uncertainty or things like that that can sometimes, again, collectively be the imbalance of Neptune. All right, so that's Friday. And also a lot of things on Friday too. We'll probably start to notice some of those structures moving forward I talked about in the Saturn retrograde or Saturn direct video. If you haven't yet seen that, it's yesterday's video. Do check that out. All right, so as we get into Saturday, we do have Venus squaring up to Mars, and this is likely going to be an energy we're feeling all weekend, and it does have to do with those relationship-related type of stuff that I was talking about earlier. More than likely, because both of these planets do have to do with our interpersonal connections. Venus is the receptive side of how we connect, and then Mars is the assertive side of how we connect. So there's a bit of a clash here between the sort of yin and yang aspects of ourselves and of our maybe relationship life. So good too, as I always say, to be conscious of this energy with any squares. So to be aware of and to set intentions, to intentfully connect, to intentfully be reciprocating and receptive, which is Venus, while at the same time, not just doing that, but also being firm in our needs, in asserting ourselves when we need to in healthy and conscious ways. Again, with that extra attention there. Because with this, it can feel like a bit of a clash. We may want to assert ourselves, maybe go to that Mars extreme. We may want to go to the super receptive extreme with Venus. So we do want to kind of work with the energies together and see how can we intentfully, cultivate this yin and yang, receptive and direct aspect of ourself, again, consciously and with intention. And in this way, it becomes very constructive. In fact, Saturday can be a very good day for grounding relationships, doing these things that maybe require the self-assertion or require the connection that we're able to do because we're willing to ground it. We're willing to set the intentions and to take the action to make it so. All right, so really good weekend for setting intentions with that stuff. All right, and then that's really going to be the ending phase on Saturday as we close out the cycle. Again, really good for just maybe some clearing, receptive energy, because we do want to be starting to acclimate to the new beginnings, which again will be Sunday. So just feeling what this new moon's about. Again, collectively, does involve Leo, that creative passion, what we find fun, passionate, entertaining, creative, and starting to cultivate this type of energy going into next week. All right, so everyone have a fantastic new moon. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget that like button, and I will see you all Monday for the daily forecast. Take care.